Bitcoin Cash. Oh, what are we going to say about this one? So Bitcoin Cash basically launched by, well, not launched. It's a hard fork of Bitcoin, which I'll explain in a second what that is. In 2009, the prominent supporter of Bitcoin Cash is Roger Ver. I'll explain a bit how, Bitcoin Cash came about and everything that's going on around with it. So what is a hard fork? A hard fork is basically when you have a currency that has its blockchain, and let's say example, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has its blockchain here, all the transactions. And at one point, and that's in 2009, the community was split about something. They were split about the size of these blocks, right? These blocks are 1 megabyte. You can put only X amount of transactions in there. Now, some people in the community, and Roger Ver was the leader of that, wanted to increase the block size to 8 megabytes. They wanted 8 megabyte blocks so they can put 8 times more transactions in each block. Now, the community for Bitcoin did not agree. They wanted to keep it at 1 block, 1 megabyte blocks. What happens in these situations, right, is you have a certain protocol, and the protocol is set for 1 megabytes per each block. If you want to change the protocol, the miners have to use that new protocol. The software that they use that has this protocol to do these transactions, they would have to use to update that software. Now, in this situation, there was a split between the community. Some people wanted to stay with the same protocol. Some people wanted to change the protocol to be 8 megabytes block sizes. So when this happens, what they do is called a hard fork. A hard fork is when they split or duplicate the blockchain in a way. If the communities don't agree and they say, okay, well, you know what? We're going to hard fork. We're going to start doing 8 megabyte blocks, even though you guys want to continue with 1. What they do is they have an update in the software, the mining software, and they say, okay, well, this was, let's say, the 1,000, let's say this is the 5,000th block. They say, okay, well, when we reach the block number 5,000, we're going to start using the new protocol. And on this block, the chain is going to fork, and we're going to have a new block here that's going to continue, and then a new block here. These blocks are going to be 8 megabytes, and you guys can continue running your 1 megabyte blocks. Now, in this situation, this chain, this is Bitcoin's chain, and this new chain, which is a hard fork, right? It's called a hard fork, I guess, because that's not why it's called that. When you're forking something, if you're using GitHub or if you're in programming, hard forks is when you're splitting, you're replicating the code and working on it somewhere else. So they do a hard fork, and this new currency is called Bitcoin Cash. And that's how Bitcoin Cash was launched in 2009. Roger Ver was the person to push for that mostly, but there's a community for it as well. So it's, he hasn't developed it. It's just a fork of Bitcoin. So it has all the same things of Bitcoin. It has the same history of Bitcoin. You can track it down to the Genesis block. The Genesis block is the first block that was ever mined, right? If you go on it, you can there's only one transaction on it, which is 50 Bitcoins that were mined. But, it has the same history. And when you own a currency like this that gets hard forked, if you own, let's say if you own some coins in Bitcoin, you're going to get some free coins in Bitcoin Cash, because it's just a copy of the code. It has different futures, but it has the same past, right? And, Bitcoin, there's been a lot of hard forks from the Bitcoin code. where there was disagreements or there's new text that wants to be done, and part of the community says, okay, well, we're gonna use this, we're gonna hard fork it and have this new currency. Same thing with Ethereum. A hard fork of Ethereum was Ethereum Classic because the community disagreed on something, and that happens all the time. So Bitcoin Cash, getting back to it, so that's a hard fork, and that's something to understand because it's going to happen often, and a lot of times when you have something, it gets hard forked, you get free coins out of that new coin. It doesn't mean the new coin is going to work, but you get them, which is pretty amazing. So this guy, since he was an early investor in Bitcoin, and he sold all his Bitcoins and put it into Bitcoin Cash, and he wants Bitcoin Cash to be the Bitcoin, right? And for that reason, a lot of people don't like this guy. They actually hate him. And he's not a very likable guy. You can listen a bit to his talks and you'll understand why. So he wants to be the true Bitcoin. He wants to be a payment currency over a store of value. And that's why he had 8 megabytes block, because he wants to be able to do more transactions quicker. Hard forked in 2009, bigger block size, so 8 megabytes. Same thing, the rest 10 megabytes block time, and otherwise same protocol as Bitcoin. So same protocol as Bitcoin, larger blocks, so 8 megabytes, does not implement SegWit. And again, Bitcoin Cash is, when the people who really push for Bitcoin Cash were miners, because miners, if you're implementing SegWit, you get less money because you're basically, when you have bigger block sizes and you don't implement SegWit, you get more money in a way because there's more transactions, and in that way, miners prefer this. Miners are going to do, the community of miners or people who are keeping the network alive are sometimes going to want something different than other people want, because what they're thinking about is their benefit, how much money they're making. And in this situation, Bitcoin Cash, really caters to the miners. Cons, not loved by a lot of the community. Again, there was this thing where at one point, and that was in early 2018, or late 2017, I can't remember exactly, but there was this situation where Bitcoin was getting attacked with a lot of transactions and the system was getting slow, and Bitcoin Cash was being pumped on one of these Korean exchanges, and at the same time Bitcoin was getting dumped, so somebody was selling a lot of Bitcoins and buying Bitcoin Cash, and it was like an attack on Bitcoin in a way. And again, so these are the type of things that people don't like. It's not loved in the community. The association with Roger Ver is not positive. He's not very liked. And another con is that the main competition is Bitcoin. How can you really go against Bitcoin, especially now after everything that happened after these attacks and all of that stuff. But again, we've seen it spike a lot of times. We've seen it gain values a lot of times. We've seen it go up when other coins went down. So it does have its value, and it has a large community behind it that are very adamant about it and that love it and think it should be the coin. So that's Bitcoin Cash.